It's August 2nd, 2020. It's been really warm here in Seattle, and I started watering outdoor plants more than once a week. This is the lavender, looks pretty much the same. The pine tree too. The succulent pot is looking great. You can see all the new growth, and the newly transplanted plants are doing well too. You can see this one, there's some new growth from the center. And this other guy is also growing pretty nicely. The string of pearls is looking okay. There's some new growth on the vines, and I think the vines are getting longer too. Here's the frizzle sizzle. As you can see, the flowers are now gonna open. This other smaller flower spike is also developing nicely. This other succulent that I moved outdoor looks pretty much the same still. Here's the elephant food succulent plant. Looks great. You can see all the new leaves coming out. And here we have the shooting star hydrangea. You can see the flowers forming in this new growth. I'm very excited for more flowers because they look very unique. And down here's the other new growth, not seeing any flower. And some auxiliary growth from that bigger main growth. It's forming nicely too. Over here's the green onion. As you can see, this is a bunch of new flowers. And it's also sending out some new leaves. Rosemary looks pretty healthy. This one looks pretty much the same. Over here's the flowers of the succulent. Looks like most of them are fading now. Here we have a bunch of mint plants. You can see they're growing very nicely, getting very tall. If you look closely at the center of the tip of the new growth, I think there's gonna be flowers soon. And in this same pot, the artichoke is actually sending out a new flower. It just can't stop flowering. But yeah, here you can see a new artichoke flower forming. Don't think it's gonna mature though. Here's the raspberry. All the canes are getting a little messy. Let's take a look at the new flowers. You can see most of them are turning into raspberries now. And on this other cane, you can also see a bunch more new flowers forming. So it's gonna continuously flower throughout this season. I've actually been seeing bees around, so these should be pollinated quite well. Here's the mulberry tree, looks the same. And down here's lily of the valley, has started to die back. Here's the blueberry. You can see a lot of blueberries forming, but also it's dropping a lot of blueberry as well. Some bird droppings because they've been eating some of the blueberries too. Here's the calla lily. It's mostly sending out new leaves, and there's a few more flowers left. Like here's one, here's another flower. So yeah, it's pretty much done flowering. Here's the dahlia. You can see I harvested the two flowers, and here's some new flowers that's gonna open pretty soon. Pretty cool. And over here's the strawberries. No flowers anymore. Right now it's just runners all over the place. And in this big pot, it's a mixture of plants. You can see actually some tomato seedlings growing. These two are tomato plants, probably from a few years ago. And here's the crimson clover seedling. Looks like it's growing nicely. Here's the ginger plant. You can see that first sprout is getting a lot taller, and it's also sending out some new leaves. The leaf structure kind of reminds me of some bamboo. And that second sprout is also getting taller now, very slowly though. And this is the first sprout that I was talking about. Hydrangea looks sort of messy, and the flowers are kind of drying up because of the heat. Over here is the catnips. It's certainly very messy. And the asparagus is turning yellow, so yeah, it's dying back. Here's some of the succulents, looks pretty healthy to me. And the rhubarb is going crazy with all the new leaves, as you can tell. The leaves are really big, which is very nice. And look down here, you can see some more new leaves forming. I should harvest the leaves pretty soon. And the pineapple is looking great too. I'll give you a closer look. Let's just look at the center, the tip of the plant. That's usually the best indicator of how healthy the plant is. You can see that new leaf is getting longer now, and at the center you can see more new leaves. And if you look closely, there's also a black vine weevil hiding in there. Right there, that little bug. I'm gonna get to it later and squish it. But yeah, pineapple is looking very healthy. As for the indoor garden, the orchids are growing a lot. You can see the new growths from this dendrobiums. And the lady slipper orchid doesn't look like it's gonna flower yet. I think it should be flowering pretty soon. Here's the mini oncidiums. You can see all the flower spikes forming. This pot, there's only like 2 or 3 of the flower spikes. This pot, there's a lot more. This one, I think, is the first flower spike that formed. And right here, you can see another one forming. And here's another one. There's a lot more spikes in this one. Down here's a few more orchids. Yeah, not too much with these guys. Over here's another orchid. This guy looks pretty healthy. And the phalaenopsis, the new leaf is still getting bigger, slowly though. A lot of new leaves from the ficus tree. The philodendron, here's the prayer plants, and the Hoya plants. They're all looking about the same. I think here's a new growth forming right here. But yeah, not too much difference. Staghorn fern, the shield frond is still getting browner. Also sending out some new antler fronds. The one that I broke from the potted one, I'm not seeing any root growth, but if you look closely, you can see it's actually sending out a few more antler fronds. And during the week, I harvested the dahlia flowers. You can see these are the leftover flowers. And here's the flowers that I just harvested. I really like the color. There's sort of like a red to yellow, orangish gradient. It's pretty short, which is not ideal, but I'll just have to fill the water up pretty frequently. I'll just give you a closer look at the flowers. And on August 1st, one day later, I harvested these blueberries from the blueberry bush, of course. Not as much as the second one. But yeah, this is the third harvest of the season.